I'm a urologist with more than 15 years of practice, and I want to be blunt. The urinary problems you or the man you love is living with after 60 are often not inevitable. In my clinic, I see the same pattern again and again. Men convinced this is simply getting old, when in reality, small daily habits are slowly choking off urinary flow, increasing nighttime trips, and stealing dignity and sleep. Research and experience both tell us this is largely preventable. In fact, a large portion of these symptomatic cases are linked to modifiable behaviors. Today I'm going to show you the 10 daily errors that most commonly make urinary flow worse. And at the end I'll reveal the one habit that gives the fastest, most reliable improvement in symptoms. Do this 10-minute habit every day, and you will notice measurable change in weeks. If you're 50 or older, or you care for a man who is, type "I'm in" the comments so I know who I'm helping. Stay with me. This is practical, immediate, and safe. Let's set the scene. Your prostate sits just below the bladder, like a small ring at the base of a water tower. When it swells, tightens, or sits tense, it creates a traffic jam for urine leaving the bladder. But it's not only the prostate. The bladder muscle, the pelvic floor, nervous system stress, and overall circulation all play roles. Tiny changes in blood flow, inflammation, pelvic tension, and bladder sensitivity add up over months and years. The good news is that many of these drivers respond to lifestyle adjustments. You don't need to accept weak streams, long waits at the toilet, or constant nighttime wakings as permanent. We'll go through 10 common errors, what they do physiologically, a real-world patient example, and exactly what to change today. I'll keep this simple and actionable so you can start within 24 hours. Error number 10. Dehydration by underdrinking. Why it matters. When urine is concentrated, the bladder becomes irritable and prone to urgent, frequent signals. Concentrated urine also increases local irritation and inflammation around the prostate and urethra. Many men avoid fluids because they're tired of going to the bathroom, but the result is more concentrated urine and worse symptoms. What to do now? Aim for steady fluid intake through the day, rather than binging large volumes at once. A practical visual target is urine that's pale straw in color for most of the day. Start by adding a glass of water every hour you are awake until your urine lightens. Carry a bottle. Set a simple phone reminder for the first 24 hours if needed. Patient vignette. One man I saw for urinary urgency had been drinking almost nothing through the day, then gulping several caffeinated sodas in the evening. Within 2 weeks of switching to steady water intake and stopping evening sodas, his urgency decreased and his sleep improved. Error number 9. Prolonged sitting. Why it matters. Sitting for hours compresses pelvic circulation, increases pressure in the pelvic floor, and reduces the efficient return of blood. That leads to congestion around the prostate and bladder neck, which translates to a weaker stream and more straining to start urination. What to do now? Stand up and move every 30 minutes. 2 minutes of walking, gentle hip circles, or marching in place is enough to relieve the pressure and reset pelvic blood flow. If you work at a desk, set an alarm or use an activity tracker to remind you. Patient vignette. A retired driver in his mid-60s who sat 6 hours a day at hobby projects reported frequent hesitancy and dribbling. After committing to standing breaks every half hour and a short walk after meals, he noticed a stronger start to his stream and less post-void dribble within 3 weeks. Error number 8. Excess caffeine, especially late in the day. Why it matters. Caffeine is a diuretic and a bladder stimulant. It increases frequency and urgency, and for many men it causes nighttime bladder awakenings. It also raises bladder sensitivity, making small volumes feel like emergencies. What to do now? Limit caffeinated beverages to the morning and early afternoon. Avoid caffeine after about 2 p.m. Replace late-day coffee with herbal tea or water. If you drink multiple cups a day, cut back gradually to avoid withdrawal headaches. Patient vignette. A man who had 4 to 5 cups of coffee daily began switching to 1 cup in the morning and decaf afternoon. His nighttime frequency dropped by about half in the first month. Error number 7. Ultra-processed foods and low-quality diet. Why it matters. Diets high in processed snacks, refined carbs, and inflammatory fats increase systemic inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is linked to prostate enlargement symptoms and bladder overactivity. What to do now? Swap processed items for whole foods. Add vegetables like tomato and cruciferous vegetables, fatty fish such as salmon twice a week, and a serving of pumpkin seeds or walnuts for healthy fats. Reduce processed snack intake by replacing 1 junk food snack per day with a whole food alternative. Patient vignette. After replacing afternoon chips with a small handful of pumpkin seeds and adding tomatoes to lunches, one patient noticed less daytime urgency and felt calmer overall. He slept through the night more often within a month. Error number 6. Holding urine routinely. Why it matters. Frequently postponing urination stretches and irritates the bladder. Over time, that retrains your bladder to tolerate larger volumes but with poor control, leading to urgency and incomplete emptying. Habitual holding increases pelvic floor tension and can worsen flow issues. What to do now? When you feel the need to urinate, aim to void within 15 minutes rather than repeatedly delaying. If you're in a situation where you can't go immediately, practice relaxing pelvic muscles and breathing until you can. Don't clench. Start intentionally visiting the restroom every 2 to 3 hours during the day to retrain timing. Patient vignette. A gardener who postponed breaks to finish tasks started setting an outdoor timer to walk back inside every 2 hours. Within 6 weeks, his bladder became less irritable, and episodes of urgency decreased. Error number 5. Smoking. Why it matters. Smoking reduces blood flow, increases oxidative stress, and promotes systemic inflammation. These effects contribute to prostate inflammation and worsen lower urinary tract symptoms. Nicotine itself can irritate the bladder. What to do now? If you smoke, aim to begin a quit plan now. Use local resources, your primary care doctor, smoking cessation programs, or support lines. Even cutting back accelerates improvement. Stopping smoking improves circulation and reduces inflammation over months. Patient vignette. A patient who quit smoking reported gradual improvement in urinary frequency and energy within 3 months, and his persistent bladder irritation symptoms diminished. Error number 4. Skipping medical screening. Why it matters. Avoiding PSA testing or rectal examination means missing opportunities for early detection of treatable conditions. Screening does not mean you will have surgery. It means informed decisions and earlier, less invasive interventions when needed. For men over 50, and earlier for those with family history, screening discussions are not optional. What to do now? If you're over 50 and haven't had a discussion about prostate screening in the last year, schedule an appointment with your doctor. Bring a list of symptoms and any family history. Screening is part of a shared decision-making process. Make the appointment and decide with your clinician what's right for you. Patient vignette. One man who delayed evaluation for 2 years was surprised to learn his symptoms were largely due to benign enlargement, and bladder training solved much of the problem. Early evaluation prevented months of unnecessary worry. Error number 3. Excess red meat. Why it matters. Diets very high in processed red meats are associated with greater inflammation and higher risks of chronic disease. Red meat is fine in moderation, but overconsumption, especially processed varieties, contributes to metabolic stress that can worsen pelvic symptoms. What to do now? Reduce portions of red meat and replace with fish, poultry, beans, and legumes. Aim for at least 2 fish meals weekly and increase plant-based proteins. Small, consistent dietary shifts reduce inflammation and can improve urinary symptoms over time. Patient vignette. Switching 2 weekly red meat dinners to grilled salmon or vegetarian chili helped one patient lose weight and notice steadier urinary function after 6 weeks. Error number 2. Abdominal obesity and physical inactivity. Why it matters. Excess waist fat is not just an aesthetic issue. Central obesity changes hormone balance, increases systemic inflammation, and mechanically compresses pelvic structures. That leads to worse urinary flow, urgency, and a weaker stream. What to do now? Start with walking. 20 to 30 minutes daily is a powerful place to begin. Reduce evening snacking. Consider time-restricted eating if appropriate. Track waist circumference. Aim for steady reduction rather than rapid weight loss. Even a few centimeters off the waist often improves symptoms. Patient vignette. An exercise plan that began with daily 20-minute walks helped a patient lose 2 inches from his waist in 6 weeks and reported distinct improvement in flow and fewer nighttime trips. Error. Number 1. Chronic stress and unmanaged nervous system tension. Why it matters. This is the keystone. Chronic stress raises cortisol and sympathetic nervous system activity, which tightens the pelvic floor, increases bladder sensitivity, and worsens prostate-related symptoms. Stress causes pelvic muscles to remain in a guarded, tense state. That tension reduces urinary flow and increases frequency. Importantly, stress also amplifies perception of symptoms, so the same bladder behavior feels worse when you're highly stressed. Why this one matters more than the others. Stress amplifies inflammation, reduces sleep quality, and multiplies the negative effects of all the other errors. Addressing stress improves circulation, lowers pelvic muscle tone, and helps the bladder settle. Many of the men I treat see the fastest improvement after we start a daily nervous system reset. What to do now? Begin a daily breathing practice called cardiac coherence. The practice is simple and powerful. Sit comfortably, inhale gently for 5 seconds, and exhale for 5 seconds, continuing this cycle for 10 minutes each morning. I recommend adding a 10-minute guided relaxation or gentle diaphragmatic breathing before bed. These sessions lower sympathetic activation, reduce pelvic muscle tension, and improve sleep, within days for many men. Patient vignette. One patient with frequent nighttime awakenings and tense pelvic floor muscles started 10 minutes of morning coherence breathing and a brief nighttime relaxation audio. Within 2 weeks, his nocturia dropped from 5 trips to 2 trips most nights, and he described his pelvic tension as melting away. Before we go further, here's a practical point. If you only change one thing from this entire list, make it stress management with daily coherence breathing. It is the keystone habit that unlocks improvement across hydration, sleep, pelvic tension, and even dietary choices. Do that one thing consistently, and you'll have momentum to tackle everything else. Now, a short explanation of how stress affects the lower urinary tract. So this makes sense. The nervous system controls both the bladder and the pelvic floor. When you're in fight or flight, muscles tighten to protect you. Your pelvic floor tightens too. Tight pelvic muscles squeeze the urethra and make the bladder feel urgent with small amounts of urine. Cortisol and stress hormones increase inflammation and sensitize nerves. Reducing sympathetic tone lets the pelvic floor relax, decreases bladder overactivity, and often improves stream strength. That's why cardiac coherence, a method shown to lower heart rate variability stress signals, is so effective as a targeted intervention. How to practice cardiac coherence, step by step. Sit upright but relaxed. Place one hand on your belly to notice breathing. Breathe gently in for 5 seconds. Breathe out gently for 5 seconds, and keep that rhythm for 10 minutes. If counting feels awkward, follow a simple app or a visual breathing circle. Do this each morning after you wake, before your phone or caffeine. At night, do a 10-minute guided relaxation. Focus on soft breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or a short meditation to downshift nervous system tone for sleep. These sessions do not cure prostate disease. They reduce pelvic tension and bladder sensitivity and create the conditions for other interventions to work better. A note on supplements and adjuncts. Some men benefit from magnesium and zinc as supportive nutrients for muscle relaxation and general metabolic health. Commonly used supplemental amounts in studies include magnesium around 300 to 400 millirounds and zinc around 15 millirounds, but you must discuss any new supplement with your physician before starting it. especially if you take other medications or have kidney concerns. Supplements are an adjunct, not a replacement for medical evaluation or treatment. Let's pull this together into a practical, measurable 4-week rescue protocol you can start today. I designed it to be realistic and to produce early wins so you'll stick with it. Week 1. Hydration, movement, and baseline measures. Start with 2 measurable actions: steady hydration and the movement rule. Keep a simple log. Note urine color 3 times daily: mid-morning, mid-afternoon, evening, using a pale straw target. Stand up and move for 2 minutes every 30 minutes you're awake. Count bathroom visits overnight so you have a baseline number. Begin cardiac coherence breathing for 10 minutes each morning. This is the single most important daily habit to start. If you're unsure about breathing cadence, practice it once in the clinic or with an app so you learn the rhythm. Week 2. Diet tweaks and sleep hygiene. Reduce caffeine after 2 p.m. Eliminate 1 processed food item per day. Add a serving of tomato or cruciferous vegetables at lunch and a fish serving twice during the week. At night, add a 10-minute guided relaxation before bed and avoid liquids 2 hours before bedtime unless you need them for medications. If you haven't already, book an appointment to discuss prostate screening if you're over 50, or if symptoms are new or worsening. Week 3. Weight and activity focus. Supplement check. Increase daily walking to 20-30 minutes. Monitor waist circumference. Measure at the level of the belly button and note the number. If you and your doctor agree it's appropriate, consider trying magnesium and zinc as adjuncts, but only after medical confirmation. Keep the morning breathing routine consistent. Reassess caffeine and processed food intake. Aim to reduce further. Start a simple bladder diary. Note voids, volumes if possible, and urgency episodes for 3 days. Week 4. Consolidate and track progress. Compare your Week 1 baseline to Week 4. Look at urine color consistency, nighttime trips, waist measurement, and your bladder diary. Celebrate improvements, no matter how small. If symptoms have improved, keep building. If symptoms persist or worsen, you've already done the right thing. Collected data and started the conversation with your clinician with real numbers in hand. Many men experience significant symptomatic reductions. Fewer nightly trips, steadier stream, less urgency, after 4 to 8 weeks of consistent changes. A few practical tips that make the protocol easier. Use a reusable water bottle with volume marking so you can space fluids through the day. Put a standing reminder on your phone for the first week only to establish the 30-minute movement habit. Then let it become automatic. Keep a simple notepad by the toilet for the bladder diary, or use a note on your phone. Find a short guided relaxation audio you like for nights. Consistency beats perfection. In social situations, choose fish or plant-based options more often. Small, consistent choices matter. Let me be clear about expectations. This is not a promise of cure. Lifestyle changes reduce symptoms, lower inflammation, and improve quality of life for many men. Some men will see dramatic improvement. Others will need medical therapies in addition to lifestyle. If your flow is suddenly obstructed, if you have blood in the urine, if you experience fever or severe pain, seek medical attention promptly. This video is educational and meant to empower you to take the next steps. Now, a quick realistic timeline to expect when you start the breathing habit and the 4-week protocol. Many men notice better sleep and less pelvic tension within days of daily coherence breathing. Hydration and caffeine changes often reduce urgency within 1 to 2 weeks. Dietary and weight changes take longer, 4 to 12 weeks, but they compound benefits. Track your urinary frequency and stream quality to see objective progress. Count nightly trips, note time to start when you sit down to void, and check urine color daily. If you've been skeptical, that's normal. The difference here is that we're not talking about a single magic pill. We're stacking small evidence-based habits that reduce inflammation, improve circulation, relax pelvic muscles, and restore normal bladder signaling. The keystone is stress reduction, cardiac coherence breathing, because it lowers the nervous system's constant clenched state that fuels most of the other dysfunctions. I'll finish with a challenge. What will you change in the next 24 hours? Here's a simple starter checklist you can do tonight and tomorrow morning. Drink a glass of water now and keep fluids steady through the evening. Stop caffeine after 2 p.m. Set an alarm or tracker to move every 30 minutes. And do 10 minutes of cardiac coherence breathing tomorrow morning before coffee. If you do those 4 small things, you have begun the rescue protocol. If this message is speaking to you, comment "I'm in," so others know they're not alone. Share this with a man in your life who wakes up at night, seems anxious about bathroom trips, or has started avoiding social events because of urinary symptoms. We need to talk about this openly. It's common, treatable, and too often ignored. Before you go, schedule a prostate evaluation if you're over 50 and haven't had a recent discussion with your clinician. PSA and a rectal exam remain important parts of shared decision-making about prostate health. And if you start supplements like magnesium or zinc, discuss them with your physician to ensure safety with your personal medical history. This video is educational and does not replace medical advice. Talk with your doctor for an individualized plan. If you want more step-by-step guides, diet swaps, bladder diaries, or a deeper look at pelvic floor relaxation, subscribe and share this with men 50 and older so we can keep building practical resources. You don't have to accept weak flow and sleepless nights as your fate. Start the 10-minute daily breathing habit. Make the small changes we discussed. Track your results, and talk to your clinician. Small choices, done consistently, protect dignity and restore the life you want to live.